Week 7 has been circled on our calendar for months. This is one of the biggest weekends of the entire season. We've got three huge ranked versus ranked matchups: Ohio State and Oregon, Texas and Oklahoma, LSU and Ole Miss. We're going to be breaking all three of those games down later this week individually. But today we're taking a look at 5 other games in Week 7 that have significant implications on not just these individual conferences, but also the college football playoff race. 5 big-time games that you do not want to miss out on, and that definitely holds true. Did you watch Week 6? Did you watch how crazy Week 6 was? No game should go unwatched. No game should go unnoticed. That once again remains true in Week 7. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys, here with our Week 7 college football predictions. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, the gridironexpert.com, home of these expert picks. Our exclusive expert picks that are beating out over 80% of the national handicappers, not just this year, but each of the last 6 years as well. We're off to a fantastic start. We're about halfway through the season already. Hard to believe how fast it's going by. We've got a great record both in our college football picks and in our NFL picks. You do not want to miss out on some of the best picks and best value in the entire country. Again, the link for that down in the description below. A full 365-day, year-long subscription that no other handicapping site is going to give you. So let's dive into this. Week 7. Got some intriguing games on the board here. We'll start on Thursday Night Football. How about that? Some Thursday Night Football. Keep in mind, we have got 50-plus days of nonstop football, whether it's college or NFL. We go all the way up until I think a couple days before Thanksgiving with nonstop football. So buckle up. It's about to get a lot of fun. On Thursday night, we've got a Sun Belt matchup between Coastal Carolina and James Madison. And this might confuse you as to why it's on the board right now. But both these teams are sitting at 4-1. And this is massive when it comes to the Sun Belt Conference Eastern Division. Coastal Carolina sits at 1-0 following their win over Old Dominion. James Madison surprisingly fell to Louisiana Monroe last week. They're 0-1 in conference play, but when you take a deeper look into that game, you realize the Dukes probably should have won. They outplayed ULM, right? They outgained the Warhawks by 142 yards. They were up 10-0 at one point, but then the Warhawks scored on an 82-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown, and James Madison was stopped on downs, turned the ball over on downs 4 times in the game, including once at the ULM 22 and once again at the ULM 37. They missed a 2-point conversion, so you factor in the missed 2-point conversion, probably 2 possessions where if they hadn't gone for it, they cooked a field goal. The Dukes probably should have won that game. That's why they're heavily favored. That's why we're picking them to win. The Chanticleers have a balanced offense. There's no denying that. They average 197 rushing yards per game, but James Madison's only giving up 113 rushing yards per game. On the other side, the Dukes are averaging over 190 rushing yards per game as well. Coastal Carolina, though, giving up over 195. They rank 118th in the country against the run. James Madison should torch them on the ground. They'll be able to stop Coastal Carolina on the ground defensively. The Dukes get a big-time bounce-back win in conference play to make things even more interesting in what appears to be a wide-open Sun Belt Conference in both divisions. On to Saturday, number 4, Penn State at USC. This was supposed to be a top 25 game, right? I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we thought, man, this is going to be a top 25 showdown, maybe top 15 showdown out at the Coliseum, and now it's a number 4 team in the country, true playoff contender against a USC team that just lost to Minnesota 24-17, now sits at 1-2 in Big Ten play. Penn State, man, they're elite. They are the number 4 team in the country for a reason. They are absolutely a college football playoff team for a reason. It is playoff or bust in Happy Valley because, look, the 12-team playoff is there. They can't make the 12-team playoff. When do they ever, right? They've been so close in the 4-team system, always falling short. They've got to get there this year, and I believe they can. Here's why. Not just because of the entire season, but specifically in this game. They're going to beat USC because of their ground game, similar to the Coastal Carolina and James Madison game. USC allowed 193 rushing yards to Minnesota. They allowed 290 rushing yards to Michigan. Those are their 2 losses on the year. Penn State ranks 18th in the country, averaging over 217 rushing yards per game. The Penn State defense also ranks 4th in the entire nation and 11th in the country against the pass, allowing just 157 rushing or passing yards per game. That's what USC wants to do, right? Yeah, the Trojans have a better rushing attack than we've seen in recent years, but they want to throw the ball with Miller Moss, who is coming off his first multi-interception game, throwing 2 in their loss to Minnesota. Penn State owns the defensive edge. They will torch the Trojans on the ground with their running attack. And while it is on the road, while it will be a somewhat tough environment, I do believe the Nittany Lions are the better team overall and the better coach team overall. Give me Penn State to get the win in LA, remain undefeated, remain a top 4 team, and send USC down to 3-3 overall. A disappointing start or disappointing record after such a strong start to the season. Moving over, I should say, to the Big 12. Arizona at number 14, BYU. This is an intriguing game to me. A very interesting game to me. Again, this is another matchup where we nearly had a ranked versus ranked matchup. If Arizona had defeated Texas Tech, I wholeheartedly believe that the Wildcats would be ranked, especially after their big 13-point victory on the road against Utah. BYU in this game is a top 15 team in the country. They have played very well this season. They're undefeated. They beat SMU on the road. The Mustangs are now ranked. They beat Kansas State in dominating fashion and went on the road and beat a solid Baylor team as well. The question in this game is which Arizona team's going to show up. The Wildcats have been wildly inconsistent all year long. You never know which one's going to show up. Is it going to be the team that goes on the road and wins in Salt Lake City, or is it going to be the one that lays an egg at home against Texas Tech? And though the Red Raiders are a quality team, no doubt about that. BYU, though. Their defense, it's pretty salty. Their passing defense only gives up to 171 passing yards per game. Arizona averages over 270 passing yards per game. So the task here is BYU's defense shutting down Noah Fafita, shutting down Teteroa McMillan, finding a way to slow down this high-octane Arizona offense, which has been solid this year, but again, has been wildly inconsistent. They're not putting up the amount of points and not playing as well as people will expect them to be, even though they did, again, go on the road and beat Utah. Just played decent, I guess, across the board. That's the million-dollar question here. But I like BYU a lot in this game. I think their defense steps up big. I love Jake Retzlaff at quarterback. They've played phenomenal so far this year. They finally found an answer at quarterback, no doubt about that. This Arizona defense is giving up 351 yards per game, including 147 rushing yards per game. Maybe the Cougars find some sort of rushing offense after kind of up and down start to the year. Additionally, last thing here, the Cougars have forced 10 turnovers already this season. Provo, as we know, is one of the toughest places to play, I would say, in the country. Definitely to me, top 25, top 30. Even though it's a day game, better at night for BYU, I think they get the job done against an Arizona team that, again, I cannot fully trust due to their inconsistencies. BYU wins this game, remains undefeated, and remains a true playoff contender in what's a wide-open Big 12 conference. All right, moving over to the SEC. How about Florida at number 8, Tennessee? It's hard to not talk about this game. It's hard to not talk about a game like this, a big-time rivalry game. Sure, it doesn't have the stakes that you want, not a top 10, top 15 showdown, but it's still a fun rivalry game, and it is interesting for a lot of different reasons. Florida, kind of was left for dead after their loss against Texas A&M, which isn't really looking that bad of a loss now. They've won 2 straight games. They beat Mississippi State. They beat a decent UCF team by double digits. The Gators now sit at 3-2. Maybe have found a little bit of life, maybe a little bit of momentum. Meanwhile, Tennessee just lost on the road to Arkansas, 19-14. It's a question of how does Tennessee rebound after such a heartbreaking loss to the Razorbacks, where Arkansas stifled the number 1 offense in the country, holding them to 332 yards and just 14 points on the day. Did Arkansas find something that a team like Florida can replicate, that any team across the country can replicate against this Tennessee offense? Is there something in the film that teams can start to use against the Volunteers that maybe starts to lead to their downfall in 2024? I'm going to say maybe, but if there was, Florida's not going to be the one to do it. Florida's not going to be the one to continue that. I don't have a lot of faith in the Gators still. Yes, the Gators had 359 yards of offense against UCF using that 2-quarterback system in Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. Great for them, right? But again, they still don't have the talent to go up against a Tennessee defense that's still ranked 2nd nationally, giving up just 227 yards per game and only 68 rushing yards per game. The Gators are going to be one-dimensional. They're going to have to win the game through the air with both of their quarterbacks, neither of which I have a lot of confidence in a hostile night environment at Neyland Stadium. I do not believe that to be the case. Florida is also giving up 172 rushing yards per game. Tennessee loves to run the ball. The Volunteers averaging over 267 rushing yards per game. I think they have something to prove in this game. I think they're angry after that loss to Arkansas. This feels like a get-right game for Tennessee at home, under the lights, against a rival. I think they torch Florida, win this game by double digits, and return to form after, again, a lackluster performance in Fayetteville. And then finally, back over to the Big 12. Number 18, Kansas State at Colorado. Beware of this game, right? This is a really interesting game. Both teams sit at 4-1 on the year. Colorado is 2-0 in conference play. Kansas State is 1-1. So this is massive because if Kansas State loses this game, they are more than likely out of the Big 12 title race. Iowa State's looking really good, BYU's looking really good, and Colorado would be looking really good sitting at 3-0. So if Kansas State loses this game, they're out of the Big 12 title race most likely. Colorado wins this game, they're 3-0 in conference play, they're 5-1 overall, and they are, I think people would have to say, legit. They are absolutely legit if they can pull off this win. The Buffaloes survived a wild game against Baylor, then dominated UCF, forcing 4 turnovers in that game to win by 27 points on the road. Kansas State dominated Oklahoma State in their last outing, putting up over 300 yards on the ground against the Cowboys in their blowout victory. So both these teams are well rested. Both these teams are fully ready to go. But I got to go with Kansas State here. Why? Their run game. The run game's the theme in Coastal Carolina and Penn State and Kansas State and Tennessee. Running game seems to be the theme in these predictions for this week, but I love Kansas State's ground attack, right? They're 7th in the country, averaging over 250 rushing yards per game. Colorado's allowing over 156 rushing yards per game. The Wildcats have a very strong defense. Their secondary, not so much, and that's a concern going up against such a great passing attack led by Shedeur Sanders. But I do believe their defense is going to make a handful of plays. Their defensive line is going to create a little bit of pressure on Shedeur to maybe force him into a handful of mistakes. I like Kansas State across the board here. I like their offense to get the job done. I like their defense better than Colorado's right now. Home field advantage will absolutely play a role, but I also like Chris Kleiman over Deion Sanders. Kansas State ekes out a victory. They learn from their last poor performance out west. They got torched by BYU and Provo the last time they went that far out. They learn from that mistake. They do not make those same mistakes in Boulder. They are able to get this game. It may be close, but Kansas State does win to keep their Big 12 title hopes alive. Colorado, despite the loss, will not be out of the Big 12 title race. Both these teams will be at 2-1, and as I keep saying, this conference in the Big 12 is one of the most entertaining in the country and is absolutely wide open for the taking. So there you have it, guys. 5 big-time games entering Week 7. Again, those other 3 we mentioned, the Ohio State, Oregon, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, Oklahoma, those games, those are coming to the channel starting tomorrow. We're going to talking about those games in deep analysis, deep in depth, with our official prediction. But these are games you want to keep an eye on. Some of these games could result in big-time upsets. Again, in college football, assume nothing. Anything's possible. We learned that last week, so do not overlook these other key games. We want to hear your thoughts, so leave your predictions down in the comments below, and let's get ready for what truly is shaping up to be another massive and probably wild week in college football. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of these expert picks. The spread picks for these games here, the spread picks for some of the biggest games of the weekend, you do not want to miss out on. We're offering those picks for one of the lowest prices in the country. We're beating out over 80% of the national handicappers. Again, with the track record we have, the price that we had, the fact that we're offering it for a full 365 days, no one else is offering you that kind of deal, and we want you to take advantage of it. Become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.